Welcome to the One Shot Patreon episode. I'm still here with John. I actually found this guy hiding in my closet because he refuses to leave. Yeah, that's how I found him. Yeah, he kept making weird alien noises the entire time. Dude, oh wow, okay. So we wrapped up your alien spin-off one shot, which is, I really enjoyed that. I don't really get to be a player often. So let's talk about that, huh? So obviously being a DM comes with its own challenges. You obviously get to create a big story, but the challenge is, how do you get people straight away involved in that story? How do you hook people in? So what were some things that you did to help you bring me into this world?
Yeah, well, I think a big challenge I'm still new to the DM experience, obviously. I've only done probably maybe like a dozen sessions, which, I suppose 4 hours per session still, you rack up a fair bit.
Yeah.
But I'm still sort of getting used to the game and the concepts and the ins and outs. What was hard for me, or was different or challenging for me, is like, rather than coming up with a story in which it's going to have various plot points and arcs, and each episode things start to develop and unravel and a story is told.
Yeah.
Whereas with this one shot, you're trying to get everything done in one situation or one encounter.
Yeah.
So trying to still make that have impact and have meaning, but also not crowding it with too much lore and too much information, I think was sort of that like balancing act that you try to play with as well. But overall, I definitely really enjoyed that as well. Just wanting to make it engaging straight off the bat, even just having it be unique, but still having like references in which you can ground yourself and familiarize yourself with. And then when you're coming up with these pictures and these ideas in your heads, you have like these references to sort of resource as well. So it sort of makes your own personal world building a little bit more easier as well, or at least for me it does. So no, I really like that.
No, I mean, you did quite well. I just had a question, but I didn't want to ask it during the thing because I don't want to break immersion too much.
It's not about me and you not breaking immersion. We do it all the time.
407.
Yep.
Was that Guild 407? You little
That's
shit.
That's a little Easter egg for you, baby.
Because as soon as you said it, I was like, 407.
Code 407.
No, that's John 117.
I saw you like I saw the moment that you're like, oh, wait a minute, that sounds familiar. And you're going to ask a question about it. It's exactly a reference to our campaign. So Guild 407 from your last campaign, that was a little Easter egg for you.
Oh, thank you. Appreciate that. One of the biggest tips that I have for D&D in terms of DMing is, like you just did, don't force yourself to create every single thing from scratch. Because, like this took you a couple of hours to make, but it would have taken you multiple hours over multiple days if you're like, fuck, I need to create a completely new alien. Why? That's why we have stat blocks.
Exactly.
That's why we have pre-made adventures. You don't have to make everything by
using the template to sort of help.
Because as soon as you were saying, oh, cryo chamber, I'm like, I could think of 3 or 4 different cryo chambers that I know of, and I'm like, okay, so I have an idea. You didn't have to say there was a space pod and amniotic fluid.
And it's like, you are cryogenically frozen like Walt Disney.
It's like what? It's like
that's one thing I really enjoyed about the premise, where it's just obviously when you're doing a one shot and you don't know anything about what world you're getting into, it's like it can be a little bit hard to justify that like within your reality, as in like why don't I know what's happening? Why don't I know this person? So I really like the idea of you're waking up out of cryo sleep and you don't know who the fuck you are or what you're doing, and you sort of have to piece that together as you're going throughout the story, as you start building little clues in that. So it sort of gives you reasoning as to like why, like where am I, what am I doing? Because you like that in the actual game. Where am I, what am I doing? And you're sort of figuring that as you go along, which I really liked.
Oh man, I think there's a one shot. It's probably on fucking Reddit or something. There's a one shot where this guy invited everyone over and he gave them blank sheets and he's just like, there you go. And they're like, what, do we fill this out? He's like, nope. It's like, oh, okay. Starts the game and he goes, this is a blank sheet. You don't know who you are, but every time you roll for something, I'll tell you what you add to it.
Oh, that's awesome.
And I was like, that's really cool.
You got to figure it out.
Can only happen as a one shot, right? Because as soon as you know your character, you're like,
loses.
Oh. So, you'd be looking to interact with animals to get to see if you're actually like a druid and you have animal handling expertise or something like that. So anything with amnesia is really hard to do in D&D in a long-term campaign. There is this one beast / monster called the False Hydra. I don't know if you've ever heard of that at all.
Sounds familiar.
Dude, fucking amazing, dude. So imagine like you are walking into a town and there's this slow white noise background music playing the entire time, right? You walk into the town and you chat to the innkeeper, like him and his wife, and you're like, hey, what's going on? Certain things happen. You go to bed, you wake up in the morning, you come back downstairs to the inn, and they're like, hey, like, where's your husband? It's like, I was never married. You're like, wait, what? And it's like, well, I was never married. I'm like, but you're wearing a ring. Oh, yeah, I am, but I've never been married. And you're like, what the fuck? So the false Hydra, what it does is it plays like music. And as long as the music is playing, it's actively changing and distorting your memory of things. So when it rips and kills somebody, and it has feeders like roots all over the town, as it rips and kills somebody, it completely destroys their memory. And, you know, there are stories on obviously Reddit, YouTube, whatever, where the false Hydra has killed like a party member in the past, but they never knew that that party member was there. So they're finding clues of a party member and like photos, and they're like, wait, that's our party. I don't remember that guy.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And it like plays on that aspect.
Well, it reminds me a little bit of, because we did something similar to that in one of your campaigns as well. I think it might have been was it 407? I believe it was, with Green, where I think someone got killed off and then their memory got completely
Callahan.
erased. Yeah, Callahan's character, where there were all these memories and like, but none of us remembered. He got basically erased from being a part of our group for the entire thing, and that had like all these little different like nuances and challenges with it as well, which was really cool.
Because Callahan, after, you know, I've chatted to Callahan about this all the time, but after, you know, bringing Green into the world, you had that fight to try and keep Callahan alive. But then, you know, unfortunately he died. And when I was about to kill him and his character sheet was, you know, about to be ripped, I asked him, I'm like, hey, what's the one thing you fear? And he's like, oh, being alone. I'm like, what's worse than being alone? Being truly, completely alone means that everyone that ever knew you forgets you.
It was like that, like Spider-Man, whatever, or that.
It's just like
one of them.
No one remembers.
And he just ripped his character sheet. You could have just done it symbolically.
But no, I didn't. No, hold on. No, I didn't rip it.
He brought a paper shredder
in. Playing D&D is supposed to be fun. So I find that if you're creating an adventure that isn't fun for someone, that comes with its own, you know, issues for sure. But if you're creating an adventure that you don't find fun to DM, hard.
Yeah.
Very hard.
100%.
Because then you're not like fully invested in the story. And because you're not invested, it's hard to then pull someone else into it.
Yeah.
It's like a pyramid scheme.
Exactly.
You know? It genuinely is. It's like, oh, I invite you, you invite 2 other people, and the next thing you know, I get 10 elephants. You give everyone else 10 elephants. It's like,
we all have elephants.
It's like, why do you need elephants? It's not the point.
Well, for me, like the immersion aspect of it, being really into it, is just making something a bit different. Like I think with my Game of Thrones campaign that I'm currently running, like even though that's definitely sort of more traditional, sort of
high fantasy.
Yeah, high fantasy Tolkien, but it's very brutal and it's very adult and it's very graphic. It's very sort of R-rated, and I love that it has that different sort of flavor to it. And with this sort of interaction, setting it in outer space and in the future, and like you're just completely alone and isolated, like, and it had that more of a like H.P. Lovecraft, like Kubrick sort of like thriller, psychological thriller aspect to it as well. So I love it when something's just different and it makes you approach something in a different way. So you can do 10 different one shots, but it's just like, oh, today we're in this dungeon, today we're in this dungeon, like, and it can sort of be a little bit repetitive. So I like finding new ways to sort of break the mold, still keep it true to the game, but then still like making enough tweaks to make it like, oh, this I've never played like this before. This is really interesting, and I know that'd be a hard challenge with you because you played a lot. But I'm gonna throw him for 6. I'm not just gonna give him a dungeon raid. I'm gonna give him something where he has to sort of wake up and figure out what's happening. So and the other thing for me, especially with an hour and a half session, was the characters. So like having too many characters, you're not gonna if I tell you more than 3 people, you're not gonna remember them all.
Way too hard.
And they can't be in depth because you only have a certain amount of screen time. So what I liked about that was you literally had Kirk, who you never actually met. You just got a single message from him. You had the Xenomorph, which did not talk. It just wanted to eat you. And the only interactable character you had was Hal, the AI. That's the only interactable character you had. So, and I really enjoyed how the simplicity of that. In that I felt like I still got a lot of depth in there, but it was still just super simple and just super bit by bit, step by step, room by room. And then, it was cool.
Okay. When you created Hal, knowing that he was going to like turn and everything, did you want me to trust Hal to start off with? Did you expect me to trust Hal?
Honestly, I thought absolutely loved the way that you played that, where it was, you had like immediate sort of, you would just straight away just like, this motherfucker killed the captain.
I don't fucking like you.
I love that. Like that would have been ideal for me. I didn't know how you're going to interact with it, but because I knew you'd be clever about it too, so I couldn't make it obvious. So, and that was one of the reasons why I almost wanted to give him like a bit of like bit of cheekiness to him a little bit as well. But like, I didn't want him just to make him like, oh, I'm just all sunshine rainbows. I'm just a robot. Like I can't hurt anybody. Like he was just, there was a couple times where he sort of would make snarky comments or talk back but then ultimately gave him a little bit more like of a likable, annoying but likable character as well. So I like that rather than just making him just a drone. And then at the end he's like, aha, I'm evil. So I love the way that you were really off of him at the start and then you used him in your scheme and you sort of, and then like you even sacrificed him and he was happy to be sacrificed, but he was emotional about it. And then you like by the end of it, it's just like, oh, it's for the greater good. He's just a robot, but it's like, it sucks how I had to die in order to make this work. And then just making you think that before it's like, this motherfucker.
This little fucker.
I should have killed you from the get-go, bro. Like, so that played perfectly. But so I really enjoyed that.
Do you want to know where or what you did that helped me figure out that Hal was not good?
What was it? There's a few little things I put in there. What was it?
When you started things off and you said in the event that the captain doesn't make it, the first mate will be activated. And I was like, how can I ask a question but ask two questions technically? So I was like, do you know where the captain is right now? And your response was, oh, what was your
response was, I'm sorry, my responses are limited. You must ask the right questions.
Yeah.
Yep.
And you said something like that. And I was like, that's weird. He's supposed to know everything, which was like tick. I was like, ding, ding, ding. That didn't work.
I love that because that was meant to be the main clue where it's, you sort of think that you don't really know what the setting is with this futuristic computer. So like, you'll know it's some sort of AI, and then you sort of realize when it starts saying that, like, oh, I'm sorry, I can't answer that question. I can't, and it's the same automated response. You start thinking, oh, so he's almost on a playback. He can only answer certain questions. He only has a certain amount of information,
like a little 8-ball.
And then as it starts to progress, you realize this motherfucker is sentient. Like he knows exactly what I'm talking about. And then you realize that 100% my biggest clue was that he's just not going to answer any questions that he doesn't want to answer. And then like, and that's exactly how I wanted you to take it, where it's like you're a bit of a flag on it, and then you sort of dismiss it as, oh, he's just not all there. And then by the end of it, when he's helping you with this and that, he's fully autonomous. It's like he is all there. He's playing me. And that was literally the biggest. Sorry, the biggest thing was that with the AI is as soon as you know he's lying to you, that's it. Like once you know that the AI is lying to you, you know that there's something else up. So well, good pick, very good pick. I saw you pick up on that too.
Because my whole idea was like at the end where Hal and the alien were fighting in the little dock. In the little room, what I was going to say was, I was like, you know what? Fuck this. The alien's after me. It's not after Hal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to run at the alien, press the button, get Hal to press the button, grab the alien, just go into space.
That would have been awesome. And I was prepared for that too. I literally, there was a few different ways that, like, because even with you with the door, like, I'm like, I hope he doesn't shoot through the door. He's going to fucking kill himself. But I'm like, he could try and lockpick the door, but you could have used the ventilation shaft as well. So little things like that. But when I was thinking about the final encounter, I was just, the only thing I didn't want you to do, you still could have done it because he pretty much had like 50 HP. You got him to 49.
Yeah,
so you did really well. That was 49 total damage. But basically, I just didn't want you to try and smite him in single combat, basically. I wanted it to be some sort of, this thing's really strong, he's very dangerous, I want to get this thing the fuck off my ship, or find a way to either pin him or trap him, or that sort of thing, rather than I'm just going to slay him in single combat. And so I'm sort of glad that you did pick that. There would have been ways around it, but then my two things were either he's going to trap it into the door, and then he's going to basically release him in the latch. I wanted that ending of you being sucked out too. So you self-sacrificing and just and throwing yourself in the Xenomorph out would have been absolutely brilliant.
But Hal was
basically when you were in there about to get sucked out, then Hal would have done that speech of well, I'm so proud of you for making the sacrifice, but what are you going to do about the other ones? Ha 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 ha. And then he would have just waved at you as he went out. So either way, it would have led to ultimately a similar ending. But no, that was absolutely brilliant.
Is there a world where I could have pressed it so that Hal would have been out as well, or did you always want Hal to give me this?
100%. No, 100%. You could have. Hal could have been. Like, one thing I wanted to do is not push you to a certain. Cool. I had a certain idea for it, but at the same time, it's if he really doesn't want to do this, or if he wants to do this and rolls really high, you have to let him do it. You can't dictate. Like, you're the god, but at the same time, it's a world of chance and choice and consequence. So like the way that it played out was brilliant, but I was sort of had that mindset of whatever Judah wants to do, he gets the chance to try and do it. So your choices were awesome.
Thank you.
But Hal could have died there with you, and basically once again he probably would have just like as even though that's his corporeal form. So even though Hal
he's still connected,
he's still on the ship. So exactly. So
either way, I would have fucking.
And there's no guarantee that that's the only android on the ship either. So he basically would have just been freezing to death with you in outer space and been like, haha, got ya. Yeah. So either way, there would have been a way to get that, at least get that plot at the end and that twist at the end. So, but you chose one of the many pathways. You chose the perfect one. So that was really, really cool. So
sweet.
Yeah. I knew you were going to be sus on Hal because his name's Hal, like Hal 9000. Like, I'm sorry, I can't let you do literally the evil AI. So I had to play it like almost so overt it was covert, where it's like make him up to be some sort of AI thing. But once the xenomorph starts kicking, you're not going to be thinking about Hal anymore.
Yeah,
so,
exactly. Enemy of my enemy kind of thing.
And then Captain Jimmy T. Kirk, James Kirk.
I know.
Star Trek. I was just double checking.
That's why I was going to make like a Picard joke. I'm like, oh, well, fuck, I guess I'm Picard. But then I was like, no, it's not the time for it. Yeah. So a part of like DMing, is being able to improv. How do you feel you can improv with characters? So let's say like you're playing
your character,
like an NPC. Like let's say as a DM, your NPC is being kind of interrogated and asked questions by the party. How do you interact with that? Do you kind of thrive in those situations, or?
I think I didn't used to. I think I used to when I initially started D&D. I mean, I've always been a drama kid, so I've always like improv in what is that supposed to mean? I'm leaving. But I've always been a drama kid, and I've done musicals, and I've done like Rock and Stedfords, and I've done like it's always been a part of me. But I've definitely like struggled a lot with like anxiety and performance anxiety as I'm getting older and struggling in social situations. Which sucks.
Sorry, did you say erectional
directional dysfunction? But so it's always something I've had in me. But I had struggled with a little bit, feeling like I'm on the spot. But the more comfortable and the more I practice and the more confident I get, the more I'm loving it and starting to thrive. And like in certain situations, and today there was a lot of obviously improv. You couldn't prep for everything. I absolutely loved it. Really, really enjoyed that. Really thrived. So I'm getting better and better at it. And now that I feel comfortable with it, I really like it.
Cool.
Because where my usual approach would be prepared for this, be prepared for. It's good to be prepared, but like I used to have to be prepared for like what if they say, and like if you didn't say one of the dozen things I wanted you to say, I'd just go cross-eyed and be like, "Me not speak at angry."
But that's not what I had in the script. It's like, oh well.
Where are you going?
Yeah.
Why are you running?
Stop it.
I am the Batman. I will batarang you.
I will gallivanting.
Go gallivanting.
Okay, so a tip that I have for like DMs in general is when you're creating NPCs, right? Have one main log line through the NPC. So, for example, let's say you create let's go with the typical like tavern barkeep, right? You have one log line. Is this guy a good guy or a bad guy? Well, no, that's too simple. Give him something a little bit more. So, for example, let's say, this barkeep is actually quite nice to the party. He actually knows one of the members of the party. So he's almost like a father figure, but not really. But that's how he's going to interact. So he's going to try and be as helpful as possible, but he doesn't know much. So even if you guys waste time speaking to the guy, he's still a nice interaction that you've had, right? And that's the log line.
And like you give him a depth of character just by giving him that one association. So if you're just like, he's a father-like figure to the group. Like that he's going to be compassionate, but he's going to be a little bit authoritarian. He's going to be, he might say some harsh words, but he means them nicely.
Exactly.
He's going to be disciplinary. So all these different thoughts and images come to your head,
instantly
and you can
start improving and playing those.
Almost just give them like an archetype. Give them just this is how, and rather than just he's good, he's bad, he's evil. She's hot. There's this.
He's a rogue. I'm like,
and it's why you have those dispositions where you can be chaotic, you can be good, you can be lawful, you can be evil, and like you can play with all those different interactions as well. So
what I like to do with that when I tell people, hey, just have one log line for your NPC. Don't have 1,000 NPCs because if you have 1,000 NPCs, people are going to ask you a fuck ton of questions. And it's too much.
It's not memorable.
Literally, if I went through and I went, okay, 49,000 people. What are all their names? Oh, dude, why is that important to you? Why is 49,000? How much of this are you going to remember? No? Okay, well then stop asking me fucking stupid questions.
Yeah.
But instead of saying that, you just go, hey, there are numbers and there are names. Yeah. You just don't remember any of them.
Exactly.
I like what you did there.
Yeah, just sort of dismiss it. And then sort of like even you piecing things together, like obviously these are just random passages on a transport ship. Exactly. So then obviously you were looking for some sort of clue. You were looking for some sort of human connection. So it's like, well, you look to the pod next to you and it's empty and it feels familiar and it feels more familiar than the rest and it's your captain. So it's like, like sort of diverting you from what you're looking at. Obviously you're looking for a certain bit of information and then sort of redirecting you towards the information that you wanted to find.
Yeah.
Which was the only meaningful character, which was Kirk, Hal, and the alien basically as well. So
well, with the way that you play NPCs, do you feel like that changes from how you play as a character at all?
I'm seeing more and more similarities with it. Sort of the more that I play. Just because obviously when you make a character, you're going to have certain backstory, certain disposition. Usually with your own character, it's a little bit more in depth.
Yeah.
But then as you start having like recurring NPCs in a campaign, you sort of treat them like a character. So everything they say and do, they have to act the way and do things in a way that their character would do things. And then
Do you feel like you can switch back and forth quickly?
between like the
Multiple NPCs? Yeah.
I think I can. I think it's definitely. I definitely think that for me, it's like a voice thing as well. Like I can be modulated or a little bit inconsistent or mashing voices up. So that's why I like to have. I have like an archetype of like when I did like Ned Stark. I always sort of think before I do Ned Stark like deep Scottish accent. Like I have to sort of set that in my mind so I don't start going more British or more Irish and start making it more high pitched and sort of have something consistent or have a reference for what I want them to sound like. So with the howl, obviously it's just robotic in that as well, but you could be a few different ways. And I basically just wanted that Space Odyssey, like, hello there, I can't let you do this. Just monotone, polite, but emotionless essentially as well, which is what I really wanted.
Apathetic.
Exactly. Apathetic, indifferent as well, which is something so menacing about that as well, which I really like. But can't quite put your finger on it. So I really, really enjoyed that. I initially wanted to go for Kirk. I wanted to go actually like, who is it again? It's
Picard. Like
no, who plays the actor who plays Kirk in the OG one? I forget his name. I definitely know it. That's it, William Shatner.
William Shatner. Yeah,
but I wanted to be like the...
Do you know what was really stupid?
Serious trouble with my friends. Beat me back to 1492 so I can beat this man like it's my job. Like, I wanted to feel like, that's too humorous. I wanted to give us, I just gave him a Scottish accent.
It's so weird. The only reason I remember William Shatner is because of that Weird Al song. I bought, tell me why I bid on William Shatner's old toupee, because I bought it on eBay.
You would, but...
But that's the only reason I remember William Shatner.
The only reason I remember him is from like, well, he's part of, I'm like an action nut. So he's part of the greatest fight scene that's ever existed.
Go on.
You don't remember the
Go on. Him beating a woman?
No. I'm talking about the Star Trek fight scene with him and the alien, and he takes like that 5-second swing, and then like he ducks under and pushes him. You haven't seen that fight scene? You joking?
Dude, I thought you were.
And then like the alien throws like a rock at him, and like he throws a rock back, and it just bounces off, and like it's obviously cellophane. It's the the worst choreographed, cheapest, dodgiest
Some
fight
Power
scene.
Rangers shit.
At least Power Rangers can fight.
Power Rangers flips my guy.
This thing's taking like these little, White Ranger. He wants some MMA fights.
Legit badass.
Exactly.
Legit badass.
White Power Ranger.
Yeah, I love white power.
It's my favorite.
What's the one color you don't like?
Yellow.
Like as in race? No.
Is Hispanic a color?
Yeah. Well, okay. Well, on that then, complete tangent. Best fight sequence ever.
That's hard.
No, it isn't. No, it fucking isn't. There's one objectively amazing fight scene, and it's not Duel of Fates. I'm talking about one-on-one fight scene. Best fight scene ever.
My choice is probably a bit different. I look for a lot of different things because I could tell you like best, like say gunfight scene or knife or sword fight scene, weapon fight scene. I think just flat and based just on the choreography and just the artistry of it. Drunken Master 2.
I was just gonna guess,
bro. Drunken Master 2 was amazing, bro. It took like 8 months to film that, and it has everything in it, man. It's just awesome. So that's probably my choice. I'm a bit of a purist, but there's a lot of modern stuff I really like. But Drunken Master 2 was just classic. It's like got some of the best choreography you'll ever see. But even like old school Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon had some good ones too. Pretty good. Yeah, I just like a lot of like there's a sense of realism with Drunken Master though as well. With like Crouching Tiger, it's a lot of wire work and a lot of this and that. Yeah, but like it's just like Drunken Master is just pure aggression. He's just literally drinking lighter fluid and vomiting and just being
trying to fight.
And he's just getting into it and and I just love that he just keeps getting more and more cooked, more and more drunk, and he just gets better and better as he gets along. And the guy he's fighting, which I have to mention this every time, it's his bodyguard in the actual fight, and he's got some of the best kicking I've ever seen. So,
Which is like, I don't think you're wrong at all.
Is this gonna be Aragorn fighting the Uruk-hai?
Eat my ass.
Is it actually?
No, it's not. No.
It's when Aragorn fights them.
It's when Aragorn fights. Actually,
they have some good fight scenes in Lord of the Rings
too, bro. Top second fight scene is probably, I wouldn't call this a fight scene, but just the most dramatic moment for me in a fight. Top 2 for sure. The second is probably the part when like Lutz is fighting Aragorn right after killing Boromir, right? And you see that bit where like he stabs him, and as he stabs him, he just starts pulling himself. Saying that right now, I get goosebumps. Yeah. But best fight scene of all time for me, mainly because of the meaning and the depth behind it, the train fight scene from Spider-Man 2. Cannot fault it. I cannot fault it. The fact that he holds on a little bit longer just because his Aunt May told him to hold on a little bit longer. The fact that as he's being carted back, he's like, he's no older than my son, you know? Or it's like, Don't worry, mister. We won't tell nobody.
Yeah.
Tears, bro.
We won't tell anybody,
Tears.
Spider-Man.
Tears.
And then I love when everyone stands up for him and then just instantly he just separates them and just throws them all into the windows.
Love it. Actually, part of that, like in the train scene as well, one of the guys that reaches out his hand to grab him, the African-American fella, that's Phil Lamar. That's the voice of Green Lantern. But more importantly, from my childhood, Samurai Jack.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Is he Samurai Jack's voice?
Yeah.
Oh, I don't know.
Oh, he's fantastic.
Was
Samurai Jack is also fucking brilliant. But, you know, like that definitely helps me when I think that is one of my biggest influences for fights in D&D, I think, is the fact that it wasn't just a meaningless let's throw hands and see what actually happens. It's the meaning behind each fight. Like, you know, good Lord, what was that Bruce Lee, Enter the Dragon? Yeah. Like each round he goes through, he has to fight a different person. Yeah, I get it. Yeah. And people will say, oh, the fight with Chuck Norris is good. Yes, you're not wrong. But the meaning behind it was just, oh, I'm just beating you so I can get to the next guy.
Yeah. Like
whereas like with Spider-Man, like it was, no, I need to do this because that train is full of people that I consider family.
Yeah.
You know, these people look to me for hope. Or where Aragorn, the reason he's so aggressive, where he's not really aggressive, even when I'm about to nerd out, as like at Withertop, right? At Withertop, when Frodo and the rest of the hobbits are up there and they're putting out they're cooking, right? And they're like, dude, a fire? Are you fucking serious? You were told not to be on the main roads. You were told not to make yourself known, right? And in Withertop, they go all the way up to the very top, and you see that the wraiths start coming through, right? The ring wraiths start following. And as they're walking through, you see that Aragorn is fighting, but he's somewhat still calm, collected, has a fire in one hand, and he's pushing them back. He's calm, he's collected. He is, right? But then the fight, right after he sees the fact that Boromir is dead, you see this guy get pissed, right? Even that scene, like that famous scene where it's like, oh, he threw a dagger and then he like hit it, and you know there was an actual dagger.
It was. And
fucking shut up.
Actually hit it. You know he broke his foot when he kicked that.
I swear to God, if I'm watching Lord of the Rings and someone does that, I will switch it off and go, get out.
Get out.
Just watch the fucking film.
Not out of my house. Get out of my life.
It's more so if you want to watch it, perfectly fine. And I'm happy to like share back and forth. But when we're watching Lord of the Rings, just appreciate Lord of the Rings.
Artistry.
Just appreciate it. Do I need you to go like, oh, that's actually Galadriel's voice of this? Shut the fuck up.
And I just love it how like the 6'6" Uruk-hai, like you were saying, he grabs his sword and pulls him into him and just snarls at him. Aragorn's reaction, he just rips that thing out and just decapitates him instantly.
Because he's still like being smart, right? He's not like waiting for him to do something else. He's still being smart.
No fear as well. Like just getting pulled in is just like trying to intimidate him before he dies. He's like, nah, you're losing your head.
This is the fucking king, dude. Are you kidding me?
In terms of like meaningful arcs like that as well, that's why I really like, even though not necessarily in terms of choreography and necessarily combat, even though I do enjoy watching the fight scenes, but like Dark Knight Rises with the Bane interaction, because when Tom Hardy Bane literally,
you think darkness is your ally.
Guy that you've seen like fight 20 people at a time, and he's been virtually unstoppable. Like he had the Joker, but that was a mental fight. That wasn't a physical fight.
Even Scarecrow,
all mental. He's never been physically challenged, and then he finds a guy that's like smarter than him, that's stronger than him, breaks him down, breaks his back, keeps him alive to torture him before he dies, and then he manages to build himself up, climb out of the prison, fights him at the end, and then beats him in his own game.
Oh,
like,
dude,
it's just
the shit.
And that's what I mean.
Dude,
just like, and it's still a tough fight in that as well. And like, and by this stage as well, he's not he's still obviously a billionaire, and he's intelligent and all that as well. But he's 8 years past his prime. He's been retired for 8 years. He's got no cartilage in his knees. He's got injuries. So he's this shell of himself that has to fight a younger, better, faster version of himself. And if he fails, Gotham dies. So just the stakes and just he's basically fighting on willpower alone. And I love that as well. Yeah.
I genuinely appreciate stuff like that, because for anything that I do with D&D, it's always behind the meaning behind it means more to me than rather than just going, oh, you do something really cool. Like, well, it's really cool. Yeah, sure. Like you jump off a cliff and you stab into a dragon, you kill it. Yay. But it's like, no, but this dragon also this dragon laid waste to your village, and you're finally getting revenge. See how like suddenly, just in one sentence, there's meaning behind it now? So I find that things like that have meaning mean so much more to not only the people listening, but the people playing and the people that are actually interacting.
Yeah.
So
has to mean something to you and to your
100%.
relationship with the character.
It
as well.
100% has to. Like in the newest campaign in the city, for example, and we got to play that at some point.
No, 100%.
But like when we started things off, the fact that you were already involved in the world, we had a session 0 and whatnot, but then finding out that your dad was killed again. Here's the thing.
Every campaign I play,
literally, no. Peek behind the screen. The day before our session on Saturday, on Friday, I was like, oh yeah, so there are some fairy tales in this faction for the Grimm faction. You can choose who you want your father to be. For example, like Titania married Jack from Jack and the Beanstalk. That guy is the head of the Grimm right now. And you're like, oh, well, my character wants to be the head of the Grimm at some point. So I guess, can he be my father? And I was like, all right.
And then he died on the first episode.
He was dead.
Well,
already.
He was only my stepdad.
Oh,
Although my other dad was also dead. So.
Well, yeah. But do you want to know who killed Rumpelstiltskin? No.
But I do miss that campaign. It was really good, and that's what I really liked. That was very different as well. Just the setting with like you said, a faction that was just all grim folklore and stuff like that as well. Another faction that were vampires, another faction that were werewolves. Like it was a very
gotta
interesting
have meaning towards it.
Yeah, especially with the grids and how certain factions like each other and don't like each other as well. So there was like a political aspect of it as well, which was really 100%. Cool.
Anytime you can bring politics into game, I mean, within reason. But for example, the first campaign that we did, you guys found a dragon egg very early on, right? But the whole thing was, okay, well, technically we found it, so we should be able to hatch it. It's like, no, you found something important. That needs to go to the High Council. It's like, well, why? Okay, sure. And then some other things happen, and then you guys are getting called into a pretty high-level meeting. And as a high-level meeting comes in, there are very political ways that you have to address the High Council. Like you have to start off with Lord so-and-so, and then continue, and then thank you, and then sit back down.
Yeah. I think that's a really important part, or like a lesson that you sort of learn when you start playing, especially campaign characters, where like not only, obviously it is fantasy. It is fantasy, but it's not just pure free-from chaos in the fact that I'm going to go and kill this kid, and then I'm going to go and
you can't do that.
The queen, I'm going to have sex with her. Like, where it's sort of like you create this character. By creating this character or whatever, you sort of create like this sort of this archetype or this label on how you're, if you're a certain character, if you're a paladin, you're going to be quite religious.
Yes.
If you're oath of devotion and you're lawful good, you're going to be a good person. So you're not going to be robbing people and stealing and killing unnecessarily. Exactly. So you got to play within the confines of the character that you feel like. But the beautiful thing, you can create whatever character you want.
Yeah.
But then you act within the parameters of your character, but also realizing where it's like, oh, I don't like what he said. I want to rob this guy. I want to kill this guy. You have to realize in this world there are consequences for those actions.
You
can't
rules.
just do whatever you want. You can do whatever you want, but you have to realize that there are consequences for those actions. So, and that's part of the game you play, where it's like, you make a roll that, whether it's high or low, you care if it's high or low because, it puts stakes on everything that you do, having consequences for certain things. So, but it's good just sort of like feeling out what your character can and can't do, or what your character should and shouldn't do, because it depends on obviously where you are, certain NPCs dispositions and stuff like that. Like I said, some certain places you have to act a certain way, and especially to get what you want out of certain interactions too. If you want to get the information that's required, you have to approach each situation a slightly different way, where it's like, it's not just all, I mean, you can be hack and slash if you want to, but it's a very, after a while, it's a very boring way to play. Yeah. Because you're not really 100%. Getting the full interactions out of it as well. So
if everything was like a, I don't know, gladiator fight.
Punch your way out of it type thing,
there's no growth in that, right? I find that, like you kind of alluded to, and really, like you were saying, I think having a character binds you to a certain course of action. Yeah. Again, it is very freeform, but more in fact that you are playing a fantasy character in a fantasy world. Exactly. That fantasy world has laws. Yeah. That fantasy world has rules. So, for example, let's say I want to make an action, right? I want to do something specific. Okay, you understand the immediate consequences. Now you need to also think about the long-term consequences. That's important one too. Because if you go to a town and you just randomly kill an NPC, nothing's going to happen if you hide the body. You go to another town, you do it again, you go again. Suddenly, people are going to start looking around for a serial killer. You might turn out to be that serial killer without even you realizing. But I was like, but I just killed a random guy. Yeah, dude, that's not right.
Yeah. And that's part of the beauty of the story, is that nothing is necessarily predetermined. The fact that every decision you make, every interaction you make, every person you save, every person you kill, it builds and destroys these relationships with certain characters, and then it also dictates things that are going to happen in the future. You know what I mean? Because you not choosing to save this person could come back to bite you in the ass.
100%.
Or you deciding to rob this person, or killing the certain person is going to come back to bite you in the ass. So I just love that, how like you do something and then maybe 1, 2, 3 episodes later, the fabric just sort of pulls back and you're like, oh crap, shouldn't have done that.
Well,
just like real life.
Honestly, like, what was it? Captain Yenna, right? Classic example is Captain Yenna. You guys were for the missing kids, go into the crypt and you start finding remnants of the missing kids and you're about to bring them back out. But you guys are pretty badly injured after that chase. And I said, hey, look, it is getting really, you've found all the kids, right? You've technically completed your mission there. You can rest, but, you know, Captain Yenna is still there with the shapeshifter. And you're like, oh, yeah, I think we're pretty hurt. She's probably going to call the guards or whatever. And I was like, okay, are you sure you want to do this?
Yeah.
And then you guys are like, yeah, we're pretty tired. Okay. But then when you went into the shop, you saw that Captain Yenna had been gunned down.
She was dead, yeah. Which was, that's definitely very interesting, where it's like, obviously, you want your character to be in the best position at all times for anything that comes. So it's like, oh, I want my spell slots back. I want my HP back. It's like, oh, we're not in combat right now. I'm going to rest.
I'm going to sleep.
But then it's just there. Certain situations like that where it's like, well, when you rest, you're basically in a vulnerable position for a few hours, and then the world around you continues to move.
It still moves.
It's not a pause game, save game when you go back into it.
Yeah.
So it's just like, rest when you can rest, not just when any opportunity that you feel like you need to get some HP back. So I did like the as brutal as that pill was to swallow. I did like that the lesson that it sort of taught, and where it's just like you've got to be more. You got to play better. You got to be more mindful of monitoring your HP, monitoring your spell slots, but also being more mindful about completing tasks and not having rest until you know that you can rest,
that you're safe, right? Because I think to play on top of that, though, to show like actions and consequences and play interactions, the person who killed Captain Yenna turned out to be Bart's older brother, who was reincarnated, which was Jonah.
Oh yeah,
right.
So it's still coming back to me.
Yeah. So like when that happened, you now then suddenly had you had reasons to fucking hate this guy. But you couldn't do anything because of how he interacted with Bart. And so now you're like, I like Bart and he's integral to our party and he's very important to our party. So I can't directly hurt you right now, but I don't fucking like you. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it puts a pin in it. And I love it because it creates these complex relationships. Not just like you're good, you're bad. I like you, I hate you. It's
A's
just like
and B's.
I don't like you, but I need you. Or it's just like, I do like you, but there's something off about you. It creates like these complex interactions. That's why I really like making those connections. Like obviously let the players come up with their own backstory, but then like find a way to connect your characters to other characters to have more meaning, or to connect them to the world as well. So just like when I was doing my Game of Thrones campaign, where one of the party members' sisters, it was Callahan in our campaign, his sister gets stolen and gets taken off to the Iron Islands, and they have to go and save her. And then just like with this current campaign, I was just sort of asking around. It's just like, so what sort of familial ties do we all have? Because they can create their own backstory. And someone's like, oh, people love being orphans. So it's like, oh, I'm an orphan. My parents were killed. Yeah. And then
it's a trope that you're going to find a lot.
But then the last person just, I think they wanted to be different. It's like, oh, I'm just going to say that I just come from a happy, loving family. I'm like, perfect.
I'm going to abuse that.
By the way, your sister's been abducted.
My sister's been what? Abducted, dude. That's 3 times.
And it's a character that they haven't even necessarily created, or that they haven't even thought about. But then by just saying that this is like, they have a family, not just like, oh, I'm an orphan. Oh, no, I need you to have a brother for my campaign.
Oh,
it's
good, dude.
So not like sort of changing the story, but it's just like using what they've given you and being like, cool, well, someone's raided your village and they've taken your sister. And then like, so rather than just saving some random damsel in distress, there's that pertinence to the character where it's like, this is my sister. If she dies, then, and then they start thinking, oh, my parents will never forgive me if I let her die. I won't forgive myself because my character loves his family. So it's, you start creating those connections, and that way something that wasn't that much of like a heart puller ends up becoming a lot more serious.
Even in our campaign, right? Like you guys wrote your own backstories. It turned out that you were all the youngest or the firstborn in your family. Yeah. It was either the firstborn or the youngest.
I think it was the youngest.
No, both.
Oh, so it was either the eldest
for
or the
you,
youngest.
you were the only child,
Yeah.
right? And so technically, you're the firstborn, yes, but you're also the youngest. Yeah, I used that as best as I could.
Ben was the youngest with Penrath, I think, as well. Yeah.
So part
Fucking
of
Penrath.
you want to talk about him?
Nah, fuck him. I didn't want to say his name.
Are you kidding
bro.
me?
I don't want to talk about Penrath. I don't want to talk about.
You were sitting on his lap the entire fucking campaign.
I don't want to talk about Dale.
No,
I don't want to talk about anyone
hold
that's
on.
spitting on me. You know what? For his fantasy game, I get spit on a lot. I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah, you spat acid blood at me just before.
You stabbed him.
No, yeah.
What you deserve.
So let's talk about Penrith, right? Because that's a beautiful explanation for a character that you didn't know how to interact with anymore. Penrith gets introduced. I mean, he's being alluded to as, you know, the older brother who is really perfect in everything that he does. Part of the High Council already, you know. He's the youngest to graduate from EAT. Fucking A grades, everything, you know. So you loved him because you, as soon as he got introduced, he was lovely. He was caring. He gave you a fucking sword, dude. A sword that would come back to you when it, you know, when you threw it. Oh, sorry, a little dagger, which you loved. You absolutely loved it. And then
wasn't the dagger like enchanted to spy on me? Yeah.
So as you guys are coming back home, you know, there was this little magic ward that Grunmac's mother had put on the house because she's like, I just want to be a little bit extra safe. So as you go through the anti-magic and your sword just like fizzles out and you go, what the fuck? Arcana check, the leftovers of a scry spell. And you're like, wait, Penrith wouldn't do this.
Describe me without
You
my
still, no, but you specifically still were like, no, I think he's a good guy.
I can change him.
Yeah. But then
He does love me.
the note that Grunmac found in his brother's bag, being like, hey, we're so sorry that Penrith has died. Would you like to come to the funeral? And the family never got the note because Penrith had hijacked it. Solidified that Penrith was no longer a good guy.
If ever.
So when you were in the cemetery and you were fighting him, what was your character going through? How did you feel? Because again, this is someone who's been helping you for the last 2-3 days, has been nice to you, has given you everything, but then now suddenly he's a bad guy? How did you feel?
Well, it's definitely because, especially being like emotionally invested in his character and then having to sort of like, you know, stab him in the back or define him essentially. It's always going to create that like that good layer and good complexity. But especially with Penrath's character in particular, he was like my antithesis in the fact that he was like the perfect paladin. He was all of my flaws and shortcomings he didn't have. So he was basically everything that I could possibly aspire to be in terms of being like a paladin as well. So at one term it's daunting because he's like a very big bad guy because, you know, he's very strong and he's a higher level than me. He's stronger. He's a legend. He's a myth. Then there's also that part of you of just like, I want to be the better paladin. I want to overcome you and I want to smite your ass. So like there's that. Yeah. So it created a lot of complex layers to his character, which is, you know, respecting him, but also being a bit afraid of him and wanting to beat him. So it's good. Like it's just good little story tools that just very, very easy to come up with that just create more complexity to these stories as well.
So during the funeral, were you sad for him, or did you feel like, no, I've solidified myself as the better paladin now?
Yeah, I felt good. I'm being honest with you. My character felt good. I felt good that firstly that he was, I don't like being betrayed. So the fact that he had betrayed us, and was he forced to betray us, or was it just like was he explicitly evil?
So essentially, from what I remember, he was commissioned by the High Council to go into hell to figure out what the fuck was going down there, right? But his whole party got captured. Mephisto had basically captured him, tortured, killed everyone, and said, hey, I'm going to kill you. This is just a bit of fun for me. But then he reached out because he was so afraid. He reached out and Mr. Green came in and he's like, dude, I will partner with you if you let me live. And he's like, okay, well, what are you going to give me in return? My brother. My brother is probably the strongest wizard I know. I'll give you my brother. And so, you know, like he wasn't forced to it, but he was monkey pod for sure.
Pretty much. Well, he's getting tortured and obviously he's getting corrupted and almost like semi-possessed as well. So there's a part of you that sort of feels bad for him as well. But then it's that bittersweet.
Yeah. There was one character who was not corrupted to start off with, and that was Steven. And you still hated his guts. No. He was a paladin too.
Exactly. I hate the other paladin. When I'm a paladin, I hate the other paladins.
So do you have that competitive spirit when there's another party member or an NPC that is your class?
Yeah, well, there's generally always a character that's similar to me, but stronger, better, high level, better looking, gets all the puss, and basically fucking hates me and spits on me. Because was Stephen the one with, was it Stephen or Dale that had the abs?
That's Dale.
Dale
always has abs,
on. Because he spat on me too, Dale. So
Dale always fits on you.
Yeah. But yeah, definitely there's that competitiveness because I'm definitely loving the character like development and complexity a lot more in sort of like story building, world building. But like I am a sucker for combat. I am a sucker for skills, weapons, attacks, and like high damage, and all those sorts of things as well. So anything that sort of levels you up and makes your character better, I really like. So there's definitely that. Like if I want a character, I want him to be a strong character. Yeah. So there's definitely that layer of like I want to be strong, I want to be tough, I want to be the best.
Like a MMORPG kind of thing.
Exactly. Yeah. Because it's a game at the end of the day. So there's always going to be that I want a good skill tree and I want a well-rounded character that can perform well in this world or in this environment, depending on what it is.
I think in the exact same way that you think of becoming a better character, I think I do that specifically through role play. So mine is like I don't mind combat and stuff like that. Like I don't mind being good at combat, but I'm very much what does my character need to be good at for the combat style that he wants,
or for the party?
Exactly.
As well. Like if you don't have a healer, if you don't have a stealth guy, if you don't have a tank, for example, that's really
typically
good.
I'm a ranged fighter. Yeah. Right? Typically I'm a ranged fighter, and I will keep range as much best I can to just pepper people. And if I can soften them, then my party can clean and I can keep pushing through. So even with Space Marine too, a weird little plug. We're not sponsored, by the way, but fucking love that game, dude. Oh, you got to get onto it. Multiple classes, right? Like each class, depending on which game mode you're playing, they much like every team-based game, everyone has their own little thing that they do. But I love the assault class mainly because I can stay behind if I need to and attack from distance, or I can push in really hard and just pepper, take the armor off and then move. And then if I can move and hide for a second, someone else will come and finish him off.
Just for the record, Judah loves to push in from behind.
Get the fuck out. But I find that being a character, I typically don't care if I get the final blow. Do you know what I mean? If I can be the reason that character was weaker, that allowed you to get the final blow, I'm like, cool, that's an assist.
Playing that role of like that role player of like being a synergist or being a saboteur, or
just an
like,
assist. I'm just for there.
And honestly, like, as I'm playing, like I play Overwatch 2 quite a lot as well, and like I play a little bit of everything, but I love the support role.
Yeah,
so
dude.
I get a lot of satisfaction from helping and assisting my teammates, keeping them up, keeping them alive in the fight, and giving them those advantages. So it's always good when you can stop someone from getting down, or when you save someone that's on their final death roll, and you stop them from dying. Like there's a lot of satisfaction in that as well. So, and you do have those people where they just want to deal the damage and deal the final blow. But then, I definitely like that play style of like, what can I do to, manipulate the environment or like 100%. Create a situation that gives us an advantageous position.
There's very much like that in Space Marine too. There's an accolade so every game that you play, like in COD, where if you get like a kill, a double kill, headshots and all that, you get very specific accolades. One of the ones that I absolutely main and try to get every fucking game is Survivor, because as you're being killed, you manage to kill a guy. So essentially, as your teammates are being downed or as they're being killed, you come through and you help them out. And essentially, as you're helping them out, you're creating not only distance between your party member and the enemy. So I'll like nade, move through, and I'll almost like push in front of the guy who's being killed so that the bullets start hitting me and the guy can move. And then I'll pull back, Yeah.
Start tanking and drawing aggro and stuff. Yeah.
Because typically if you play, for example, like the characters that I play a lot are rogues. I love blood hunters because they're just emo. I love playing it so much. I cut myself and I get strong.
Yeah, you can't understand the depth of my darkness.
Stop. Don't cut yourself. That's not good for your health. But like I love characters who are glass cannons, right? But they're so fucking hard to hit that they become OP. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So like you cannot hit me, right? And I'm going to make sure that you don't have access to me because I'm going to be in range, but I'm going to be peppering you the entire time. Yeah. So it's like I know how to touch you from a distance because I know that you don't have that on me.
Yeah, glass cannons are always going to be an interesting play style and an interesting setup because it's great when like they excel at certain things. So when the opportunity or the situation favors their skill set, they're going to do really well, and that's what they're built for as well. But then it's also great where there's certain things, situations that they won't be so good at and they'll fail at. And it's good that when they're dangerous, and they're very, very dangerous, especially if you let them fight or play the way that they want to fight or play.
Yep.
So it's just I have to, and then so it gives you that sort of that chess match where it's like I got to find a way, just like real boxing. I want to take away the way that you want to fight, and I want you to fight the way that I want to.
100%.
And then it's basically who can force that interaction. And like you're saying, being like a synergist or a saboteur, then you start playing that game of like, oh, I'm going to make you like fight like me. Well, I'm going to make you fight like me. Well, you're going to do this, so I'm going to do this. So I'm going to do this, so you're going to do this.
Funny you should bring up boxing, because my analogy for that was like when we play basketball together, right? I always say just make them play at our pace. And you're like, what do you mean by that? No. They're going to play our game. I'm not playing their game. Any sports, right? Like, no. I'm not going to go to where you want me to. You're my opponent. My job is to score. I'm going to create an environment where it's easy for me to score.
Yeah.
I don't give a shit about you. You will, at any point in time, learn this fact. Yeah. But I will move where I want to move.
Yeah, and it's just exactly. And it's like, you're playing basketball, I'm playing ping pong, bitch.
Exactly. Fuck you, bitch. Is that a paddle?
Like, so rather than saying like playing, if you're on D on on the basketball court, for example, it's like not necessarily looking for the big block or the wicked steal, but it's like, no, I'm just going to force you into a shot that I know that you're not good at.
Exactly.
So like we've got a really shit midi. I'm going to force you to pull up. I'm going to force you to do a pull up midi. You're really bad, going off your left hand. I'm going to force you to the left.
Exactly.
So that's exactly it. Yeah.
So especially when I'm DMing and like campaigns, more than one shots, obviously, but when we're playing a campaign, I will not that I never want to ever play DM versus players. I don't ever want to do that. Tomb of Annihilation is not the type of DMing I like. Is it fun to listen to? Sometimes, I guess, but I just don't like where it's me versus you. I'm like, don't play that. This is supposed to be collaborative. So I find that I don't really go one-to-one, I'm going to beat the shit out of you. But what I do love doing as a DM is challenging my characters and going, hey, you did this in the last interaction and you were really good and you relied on your smites and your magic circles and it's wonderful. Let's challenge that. So you don't just go to the same play over and over and over and over again, and you're not just fucking camping and waiting for the guy to bottleneck and then come inside and you're just picking them off one by one. I'm like, no. Okay, you're there. This bad guy has his own little spawns that he has. They're all around. You're now fighting on multiple fronts. Yeah. Okay, you didn't like that last time. What you did was you created Spirit Guardians. Okay, Spirit Guardians is fantastic. It means that I can't get close to you. What if you now can't get close to me?
Well, it's like, you love using your smites. Well, guess what? This thing's resistant to radiant damage. So.
Resistance to radiant damage is a really good way to do it. But you need to smite in order to do your damage. What if you never get to smite? Because then you're like, Deontay Wilder fucking rolling that hand the entire time, but you just can't land it. So you have wonderful knockout power.
They're 10 feet off the ground, you can't reach them. You're a dwarf pally, and they're 10 feet off the ground.
What are you gonna
floating,
do?
What are you gonna do? You can't reach
do
them
something about it. It's like, no, think outside the box. Think outside. This is not an impossible situation.
And then once again, it was like you're saying, you either are forced to fight a different way and then find things that your character can do, or find just things that you're able to do with the environment, or once again try and solve the puzzle and be like, I want to be able to land my smites. How can I get this bastard to land on the ground so I am able to hit him? So either way, you've got to solve you've got to find a different way to fight, or you've got to find a way to make the fight come to you.
Exactly. So it's like, okay, this guy is 15 foot off the ground. I cannot get there because I'm wearing heavy plate and I'm a dwarf, right? I cannot get there. Then you go to the party and you'll be like, okay, does anyone have anything that can either get me close to him or ground him? Because if you can ground him, I guaranteed all I need is just one chance. I know this guy's weak to smites.
And then you collaborate with your teammate. They're like, oh, hey, I have a lasso. They lose their action to grab the lasso, pull him down 10 feet, and then your guy comes in after and smacks him. And then that way you've just collaborated to solve the problem and win the fight. So.
And then the next time you come around it, you're like, automatically you have a game plan should something happen. You're like, oh, there's a flying creature. Cool. Let's go to plan A, which is Earthbind. You land him and I'll come in and clean up after. But I need you to maintain concentration on Earthbind or whatever, right? Yeah. But then you can kind of start playing with scale and push and pull with combat a little bit more. Like we've started using 3D terrain a lot more. So now there's a lot more interactability on the table. So now I have to get you to think more than just 2D. Yeah. This is water. This is a mountain. Yeah. I'm like, no. Here's a door. You have to get through that door. I'm like, oh yeah, I'll just push it through. You push it through. Yeah, sure. This is a door that swings inside. How do you interact with it? Well, if I swing it inside, that guy can push into me. So I'm not going to do that. I'm like, okay, cool. What do you do? Yeah, what do you do? Yeah, don't just find the easy way out. Where it's like, oh, well, then I break the door. Thing, Like, well, if you break the door, that's fine. Now they're just going to horde straight through.
Exactly. Yeah. And you try to use the same tactic over and over. Like you said, you can play with them. So it's like you try to lasso him again. And it's just like, oh, well, guess what? He has advantage on this because he's actually a lot stronger. This guy's resistance. So.
Or he's just going to use a deck save to move away from you.
Little things like that because they're sort of getting wise to what you're doing.
It's like, how long is your lasso? Oh, 30 feet? He's 35 feet.
I like that. Exactly. Like I said, it just forces you to. But it's good though because it's easy to get complacent and just be like, oh, I'm a rogue. I'm gonna stealth sneak attack, sneak attack, or like uncanny dodge, bonus action away. Like, and as you get high levels, there's more things that you can do, obviously, which is obviously why with beginners you keep it at a low level because it's otherwise it's muy complicado.
You got to learn it. Yeah,
but no, it's always good when you can figure out not only different things that your characters can do with like different spells and interactions, but also like just the ways that you can use either equipment that you have or the environment as well. I think is also really cool. Yeah. Like,
do you find that when you're fighting as a PC, do you find that when you're fighting that you look for the environment to help you, or do you just go, how can I attack this creature first?
Really depends on what I'm playing. If I'm playing like especially a rogue or something, I'm looking to try and get like surprise attack, sneak attack. I'm looking to try and be able to sneak. Like if I'm like if I'm a rogue or I'm a gnome, it's like, oh,
get advantage.
What can I hide behind? I can move through someone else's space. I can hide with any creature that's larger than me. I'm gonna hide behind them. And it's just like, oh, I'm quite, or if I'm like a gnome or a rogue or like some sort of halfling, it's like, oh, I'm pretty squishy, so I probably shouldn't be in the line of fire. And even just little things as well, like thinking about like, oh, this thing's a wizard, it might have fireball, maybe I shouldn't be standing with my other 5 party members. I should probably try and get somewhere else. Or think about elevation or half cover, full cover, all those little things. But that's why I liked with my original character, which was my dwarf Pally. He was just heavy armor. He wasn't stealth and he wasn't hiding. So he was very much, I'm gonna run at you A to B, get in melee range and land big damage. That was him, which was definitely fun. But I'm I'm playing like College of Swords bard characters now, and I'm playing like characters with a lot more complexity and what they can do. Like monks are also really fun. But I've just really enjoyed just playing the different characters and bring sort of drinking in those different play styles as well.
And I guess that comes with experience as well. Like if you bring a person into D&D for the first time and you're like, oh, okay, cool, you're gonna play a warlock, a sorcerer, multi-class, this would be wonderful for you. It's like, oh, cool, what do all of these things mean? I don't know, figure it out.
Even I haven't played much warlock or sorcerer at all.
They're good. They're really good. But it takes a little bit to understand the different spell slots and how you can kind of abuse certain spell slots. Like there's this thing called a coffee lock. I fucking hate coffee lock. It's essentially it's a way to get enough sorcery points that you just continually have spell slots.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. And you don't need to sleep. Bullshit. But
what?
Yeah, it's fucked. It's fucked.
I hate when people find loopholes.
Oh, what are you gonna do?
You played well. You played smart, like in that one shot we just did. Because I remember you're talking about like using like different things in the environment. You're very smart in the docking room, where I like how I gave you different things in the room. Like I almost gave you multiple options, and you decided to choose all of them. So like, oh, there's a docking bay in which you can have access in and out of the ship. You're like, cool, I want to use that as an airlock to try and get that motherfucker out of here. And it's like, oh, there's a space boot there. Oh fuck, I'm putting that on just in case I get that. And it's like, oh, there's a mech suit. It's like, Hal, get your ass in the mech suit. And you meet Hal, you immediately use him. So everything I gave you in the room, you used it to your advantage. And then I tell you that there's a supply closet with different items you could find. You're like, great, this thing hates fire. I'm grabbing oil and I am absolutely dousing everything in the So like you just you have like they only had an answer at every turn, but like you used the depths of your character's abilities, but also the depths of the environment and the world building that you've been given. Like every single thing that I threw out to you, you basically didn't let it just slide. You grabbed it and you took it and you rolled with it. And anything you could use, you did use. So obviously, because you're quite a seasoned player, so.
But it's the Batman thing where it's like a plan to a plan, you know?
Yeah, exactly. You either what's it?
Failure to plan is a plan to fail.
That's the one. Yeah. Success is when preparation meets opportunity.
Yeah.
You know that in Japanese, the word for crisis is the word for opportunity.
Kamikaze.
Tsunami.
Oh, fuck. What was it?
What does kamikaze mean?
Kamikaze? Isn't it wave?
Wind, sacred wind.
Yeah, that's it.
Wind, I think that's tsunami. I don't know, man.
I don't really like Japanese people. I'm gonna be completely honest. I'm kidding, bro. I'm kidding. I love the Japanese people.
Half your client base, bro.
Japanese people?
Yeah, man.
Nah, bro. Half my client base is veterans who are fighting the Japanese people. Nani?
Why do you have to sound like you're coming with this?
Well, that's what they sound like, bro. How have you not watched like any kind of anime, right? I was about to say hentai for a second. How have you never watched any kind of anime where you're like watching it and they go, Sasuke, Naruto, Sasuke. You know, it's like, what are you out of breath? You've just listened to the Jonas Brothers? Like, can you not? Just breathe. Just... right? Big breath in, big breath out. But yeah, no, I had a lot of fun. And thank you for bringing that into the table. I definitely have to kind of get this a little bit more where I get other people to DM as well.
Yeah,
it
sure,
gives
man.
them a chance, you know, to DM for me, but it also gives me a chance to play,
Exactly.
which
yeah.
I don't get to do a lot.
Exactly. So I was definitely, I've really enjoyed making this up and DMing as well. So I'm definitely always keen to play or DM and just contribute to your content as well. And I feel like it's every time I play it, it just gets a little bit smoother, a little bit more comfortable as well, which I absolutely love as well, which is good. So it's all a learning experience.
Absolutely. And I think currently, as at the time of this recording, I think our episode with the pirate's life is the most played episode out of the entire thing.
My amazing pirate voice.
I think it's more the fact that you're getting pissed about a lock, dude. I think that's it.
Well, the lock was fucked, bro. Like,
it wasn't. You were just.
It
was designed to piss you off, and it did.
And
right?
I succeeded. Technically, I failed all my rolls, but I succeeded that check because it did piss me off.
No, yeah. It's like, you know, like a red light, right? Like you're rolling, and then the red light comes through. Are you going to be angry for the red light for doing its job?
Yes.
No, Pete.
Because I'm in a rush.
Eat my dick. No, you wouldn't, right?
The instant it turns green, motherfucker beeps behind me.
Yeah. It's like, I'm going. Sweet. We'll wrap it up there. I hope you had fun, and we'll see you in the next episode.
Thanks for having me.